Hi kids, Peter Griffin here from the Daily Catch. Today we're going to go over how to fillet salmon start to finish. We're going to start with some theory and then we'll cut some fish. First off, you want to choose your weapon. Different knives for different people. You have to really find what steel speaks to you. There's a lot to think about: width, flex. The traditional fillet knives have a lot of flex, and that's very useful for some things. It's a hindrance for other. The French knife, a classic cooking knife, minimal flex. I like a thinner knife because you're doing a lot more intricate cutting when you're filleting rather than using a French knife that you would for cutting. A lot thicker, barely any flex. We've got a good spread here. I'm going to show you a 2-knife system. These two, probably some of the most well-rounded knives I know. And the 2-knife system I find is the best for filleting fish, just because for different parts of the fish you require different things. I can fillet a fish with either one of these on their own, but together they work really well. For instance, this one is hard to cut through the skin of a fish with just because of the way it works with the board. We'll get to that later. We're gonna start at the beginning and work our way down. Now, fish cutting is all about a sharp knife and technique. If you have those two things, it doesn't matter what knife you have, you can make your way through it. Take the time to learn how to properly steel your knives. I do this in between every 2 or 3 fish. Sharp knife technique, essential in cutting fish. You deal with 3 angles when cutting fish. When you're holding your knife, that is. You're dealing with your torque, is what I've called it, your tilt, and then your edge, which is where it is in concert with the edge of the board here. You learn how to manipulate those angles. Not only fish cutting, but also knife skills will be increased a lot. Traditional cutting, if you're cooking or doing prep, all that sort of thing, sort of hold your knife in a very static, rigid motion. Fish cutting is not like that. Fish cutting, your knife is flying all over the place. Backwards, forwards, you're holding it, gripping it funny, all the way over. It's a totally different game from most knife skills I've learned. The fish, I find the fish sort of has a how to cut me guide on it as you go through it. There's lots of lines, there's a grain in the meat. You learn to read the fish, it's a lot easier to cut. We'll start off, spine towards you. You have a lot more control over that part of your knife than that part of your knife. So you want to use this part of your knife for those high pressure cuts more so. So we're going to start a little bit more theory. Can't cut through fins, you don't want to cut through any connective tissue, don't really want to cut through bones. It dulls your knife and it's just a hassle, really. So what you want to do, lift up this little fin. The collar here is your first line that you're going to cut. You're going to cut down the collar. Now you have to flip your knife, make sure that you separate the collar here. This first cut is not so much a slice as it is a twist. You're going to adjust the torque of your knife and scrape it along the spine. You want to stop right when you get to the spine here. You're going to scrape along the spine. At the same time, you're going to twist so that your edge is matched with the edge of the board. So from here, you twist and pull. Those snaps, those are good. You hear those ribs starting to go. You want to lift up your belly because as you lift your belly, it causes tension between the ribs and the spine and makes it easier for them to crack. Also, there's a little edge in here that you'll get caught on if you don't. So lift your belly up, cut on the backstroke. Up, backstroke, again using the most useful part of your knife. Alright, follow through. First fillet is out of the way. Second one, again spine towards you. Cut the collar. Now you want to cut through this little bit of skin here, and that makes it so you don't leave a ridge of skin, because with a ridge of skin is a ridge of meat. That's a lot of waste. You're going to, again, place your knife here, lift the belly, lift the back, just your fingers, making sure they're out of the way of the knife, and again, you're going to twist. Hear that note, those nice crunches, that's what you want to hear. You want to keep your knife flat with the board, parallel. You're going to torque it down just a bit so that the edge is facing the spine. It's going to guide the knife along the spine, nice and tight, no meat loss. One. Cut with your backstroke, you have more pressure there. There's your fillet ready to go. Barely any meat loss, no skin, no meat. It's a good spine. Alright, as you're cutting fish, you want to sort of shape it to how you're going to present it. So I'm going to round this off. First thing you want to do, you want to take off this ugly bit here. Now, you can only start your cut on flesh. You don't want to cut through this connective tissue. You want all this ugly gone. So you're going to place your knife right at the start of it and draw it all the way along. Nice even cuts, slow strokes. So this back cut has two angles. One that comes down like this, another one that's harder like this. So you're going to round the fish off. So you actually want to adjust your angle as you cut your fish. So bit by bit, nice long strokes. You're just separating it from the skin here. Once you're at the skin, high pressure cut, thumb on the back of the knife, follow through, push this out of your way. Push it out of your way. Alright, you can even that back up a bit if you want. That's all presentation based stuff. Doesn't make the salmon taste any better. Second cut, you want to take this guy off. While you're doing your ribs here, which is probably the trickiest part of the fish, that'll get caught in your way. You want to take it off. First thing you do, come at a nice tight angle, almost parallel with the fish, just slice it off. Try that again. Now, if you're using the two knife technique, which I'll suggest, especially for beginners, here's when you're going to pull out your fillet knife, your ribs. First set will always come towards you. Again, you're following the grain of the fish. You want, first cut is just going to open up the top of the ribs, so they're separated from the spine, they're ready to cut. Now, you're going to place your knife back there, and one bad habit people have is gripping their knife like they're, chopping something. When I'm cutting a fish, I don't have any fingers on this side of the knife, because if I do, then it angles the knife down and the tip will cut into the meat where I don't want it to. So I'm holding the knife like this, no fingers, laying flat on the fish. If you really want to get the hang of this, what I'd suggest, put your knife down where you're going to cut, let go of it, grab it delicately, do your cut. This is a zero pressure job. Fish is easy to cut, you just need a sharp knife, good technique. Finish off, take that off. Now I like flipping it for this. See, this grain is another nice thing to follow. What we're going to do is we're going to push with the grain. Push that off, separating it all. Nice trick is you plant your knife, the tip of your knife, on the board. That gives you some stability and consistency, and then you're just going to pull it along. Take all that off. I suggest going back to the French knife for these straight cuts through skin. Like I said, skin is hard to cut through. You don't really want to start a cut on the skin. You want to start the cut on the board, because then your knife, the edge is actually in the board, and the pressure will force the skin to cut. Makes it a lot easier. Little things to pretty up the fish. We work in a presentation-based industry, so that's really important. Now, if you're filleting at home and you're just throwing it on the barbecue, probably not as big of a deal to you. That fillet is done. Next one, same but different. You're going to clean this edge up first, make everything even, and take the skin off. One big cut will do. That being said, you can work your way around it. Nice, long, straight cuts are preferred to little cuts. Little cuts make it look like you've sawed through it. I'll show you later how to even those out so that it looks like you've done one cut. Little cutting corners, little procedures. Again, you're going to take this guy off. Second set of ribs is away from you. Again, open it up. First cut's just the opening. As you're coming down these ribs, you want the torque of the knife to be facing towards the ribs, because then the meat will push your knife into the ribs and you won't lose any meat that way. You want to draw the angle of the ribs, so you want to draw your knife along that curve there. Also, those ribs are going to be another marker where to cut the fish. You're going to follow them. The tip of my knife would follow on these ribs all the way down. Plant your knife again, no fingers underneath there. Just draw it along. Lift up, don't lift so much that you're going to tear the meat there, but you just want to lift it up to replant your knife, put it back down, follow through. Follow through. Now, you see me cut through the skin here with this knife. The fillet knife, if you want to do a straight cut on the board, you have to plant it, bend it, and then bring it back so that it's pretty level. It's pretty much standing straight up, but the knife has to be at a pretty significant bend to do that. It's tricky, you can get the hang of it and you'll benefit from that, but much easier to just use the straight edge knife. Makes life a little simpler. And that second fillet, done. gonna go over it again. I'm gonna cover some things I didn't do on the first fish. Alright, once again, collar. You wanna twist and pull. Using this close part of your knife here, keep pulling back. I'm angled towards the spine, lifting the ribs up. Get that out of the way. Collar. Cut that off. Make sure that you've cut through the skin or you're going to lose a lot of meat. Back and belly, fingers off the board here. Nice little twist. Now my knuckles are dragging on the board. You'll find that a lot. Sometimes you'll be having trouble doing a cut. And the problem is you're cutting like this. You bring your hand down, then all of a sudden, right there you have that much knife on the board. You bring your hand down, all of a sudden you have all that connection. That's just a stronger cut. You're using your energy more efficiently. Again, shape your fish. Starting on the flesh. Try and get it in one nice long even stroke. You don't have to take much. Take a little bit at a time. Just do it in one good long cut. It's the nicest looking cut. Always. You can patch up little mistakes, but nothing will look as good as if you do one solid fine cut. And that's all I have to say on that. Take that guy off. It's in your way. Again, open these ribs up. Taking it down nice and easy. Always cutting the same direction. You don't have to religiously follow the grain, but it's a great direction to get the hang of cutting fish. Now when you're doing these little skimming parts, you don't want to take off any flesh, but you have to take a little bit off. What you want to do is you want to put your knife on the flesh just where it's about to start. You want to push it down. Now it's a little bit in the fish, so it'll actually catch and start to cut. Push. You can relieve your pressure as you push, and it will come up and just take off that connective tissue, which I've dubbed the ugly. You want to take all the ugly off the fish. Again, right here, I'm just going to plant my knife. Pull it nice and easy. I'm not losing any meat that way. 1, 2, 3, 4. I found the best presentation for the fish is that. Straight cut, straight cut, straight cut, and then your angled cut. That's just the best looking salmon fillet you can find on the market, my friends. Again, take that off. Get that all out of the way. 1, flip it over, open your ribs. Now, I like to put my fingers here and hold the ribs. I'm not going to cut through the bone, I'm not worried about that. So these two pressures working against each other holds the fish. You often have a problem with fish is it's slippery, it slides all over the place. You have to find good techniques to hold it because you can't just grab onto it, you'll damage it. Fish are very delicate. So while holding fish, while I'm on that topic, when you're holding a fish, you never want to use your fingers. See all the imprints it leaves? So delicate, soft. What you want to do is lots of surface area. I'm holding the fish here and here. Also, you want to use pressure to hold it. If I'm cutting this way, I'll hold the fish this way. So my two pressures, this way and this way, hold the fish down. Just little techniques you pick up. For southpaws, it's exactly the same. You don't have to worry about switching anything around. Keep that spine towards you. Collar. Cut. Not quite as good with my left hand, guys. Cutting on the backstroke. Now, when you're cutting that spine off, you want to make sure that the pressure you're cutting with, the pressure's coming this way. If you aim your pressure down, you're going to cut through the spine and mess up your bottom fillet. There's ways to fix that, and everyone is going to cut through a spine if they're frequently filleting fish. It's going to be alliteration. That being said, you want to avoid as much as possible. Pressure goes that way. The angle, that much is all the difference you need. You don't need to go like that to cut along the spine. Just a bit. Oh, I was using my left hand. See here, I was coming down, that angle varied, and I went up into the fish a bit. We'll fix that. No problem. Again, collar. Lift up your back, lift up your belly. Cut through the skin here. Twist. You want to hear that crunching. No matter what you do, you hear the crunching on the spine, you're golden. Bring it all the way. I lost a little bit of meat in the back. Like I said, my left hand just can't do what the right can do. I'm going to take this ugly off. A few cuts. If you want, you can do one solid cut here. It feels good, but the problem is this top fin is going to fold under and you can't cut through it. It makes it a hassle. I like to just come from the back, take a bit off, take a bit off, take it all off. Easiest to get it out of the way. Take that guy off. It's always in your way. First set comes towards you. First one, open it up. First cut. Plant your knife. Take a step back. Holding on the ribs there. I'm going to draw it down. Going with the angle of the ribs. Tilted towards the ribs. I'm not losing any meat here. Oops. Want to try and avoid sawing as much as you can. Makes little uneven cuts. You want a nice clean looking fish. Again, lay it on the flesh. Put a little pressure on it. Push. Plant it on the board. Put a little pressure on it. Pull. Just comes right off. Straight edge. You want a nice angle there. Straight cut here. Straight cut here. And good to go. Big bruises, stuff like that. Sometimes you just have to make the cut, pop it off. Every fish is a bit different. They're not all perfect. Alright, second fillet. Again, you're just gonna, one little tip here, plant the top of your knife. Once you're planted, it gives you an anchor point. You can adjust your angles, and you can adjust where you're cutting. So from an anchor point, I can bring it all along, make sure I'm doing a perfectly even cut. The tip of my knife doesn't leave the board until I'm at the end of my fish. Nice even cut. All the way along. Again, when you're doing a big skin cut like that, start on the board, come onto the fish. Just let the fish get in your way. Just pretend you're cutting into the board. Take that guy off. These ribs, always away from you. You're gonna, first one will open it up. Now nice easy angles, just pull it on through. Nice and easy. Push. Pull. Separate it off all the ugly. I'm going to come in with my French knife. Clean it up. Clean it up. Clean it up. See this big divot I have here? You can tell it looks very uneven. And what you want to do, you want to come from this angle of the fish. You want to come in from a distance and slowly drop the angle. Little cuts. You can even it out. Even a little more. Doesn't even look like it was there. Hide your mistakes. That's the real truth to life. Alright. I think we've covered most of the basics. From here you should be able to start off. Everybody has their own ways of cutting fish. There's no one right way. I've showed you my method. That being said, you should learn my method, another method, find your own. Everybody, different knives speak to them, different methods. Now, half for my amusement and half for yours, I'm going to do a couple speed cuts to show you my technique. You can fast forward. Collar, spine, clean the back up, take that off. Ribs. Separate the ugly, come in at the tail, boom, all. Well, from there, I hope you have fun.